Welcome back to Get Into It with Tami Roman. Remember to subscribe to FOXSOUL's YouTube channel and make sure that you hit the notification bell to get all the best updates on new videos and live shows. And please, people, don't forget to give the thumbs up button and tell us how you feel in the comment section. Now, my guest today is a psychiatrist who specializes in, as he puts it, dating, mating, and relating. But most of you will recognize him as the co-host of Marriage and Family Boot Camp Reality Stars. Please welcome Dr. Ish Major.
Hey, Tammy, how you doing today?
How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, we're actually in the middle of shooting another couple seasons, so it's a good day to be here. This is one of my down days.
Oh, because you know it's been 6 years since Reggie and I were on Marriage Boot Camp.
Yep, that was a great season. I remember that season.
You know, I love John and Elizabeth, and I felt like I learned some valuable lessons while we were at Marriage Boot Camp, but I've since watched seasons that you're hosting, and I might need to go back on there. I might need some more help. Do you ever get tired of hearing about other people's problems?
You know what? I don't. You know, I grew up with 5 sisters and 8 aunts, and you know, my mom and dad were together for 6 years, but I was basically just surrounded by women, right? And so it was just, I grew up in that environment of just hearing them talk, hearing them gossip, hearing them whisper, and it was just always fascinating and interesting to me because as a little kid, I just wanted to know how things work. You know, every toy I ever had, Tammy, I took it apart immediately. Sometimes I got it back together and it worked. Sometimes I didn't. I just wanted to know how it worked. And so same thing when I talk to people and I hear their problems, I just want to know, how does it work? Why do you do that? You know what I mean? And so it's interesting to me.
Is it hard not to be biased? Because I know as a psychiatrist, like you guys aren't supposed to put your feelings on another person's situation. Yeah. But how do you control that?
Yeah, I think so. That's what they teach you, right? You got to take all the emotion out of it, and you got to be, you know, very linear thinking. And I think that's BS, right? If I can't care about what's going on with you, then I can't really help you, right? Me feeling something for your situation, feeling something for your pain, feeling something for the decision you had to make. That's what helps me dig a little bit deeper and help you. Now, you know, the thing for me is you just got to go into it, no judgment, right? Everybody. We are who we are. We came from where we came from, and the tools we have are the tools we have. And so when you show up to my door, there's no judgment. I'm taking you as is, and we're going to get to work from there.
On Marriage Boot Camp, do some of the couples seem like, I don't know how to help you? Like, do you ever get, y'all beyond me. It's above me now.
Look, there's always something to work on. At that point, Tammy, that's when I say, your journey together is coming to an end, and now it's time to work on each of you as an individual, right? Because it's something we can always work on there. Because let's be honest, you know it, Tammy, you've seen it. There's some folks out there who just don't need to be together. I don't know what y'all fighting with.
This is true. And that leads me into tonight's topic, which is like deal breakers in relationships. I feel like look out at some of my friends, or like even in watching your show, it's like, well, that wasn't a deal breaker. Like, how, you know, should single or married people have a list of things, or is that going too far? Like when you make that perfect list of your mate, is that too much?
Yeah. Well, whenever I'm driving to a new location, I have a list of the turns that I need to make and a list of the routes I'm going to take. It's how I navigate to that destination, right? I don't get on a plane. The pilot has a list of things that have to happen in order to get you from LA to New York. And so how do you expect to get the person you want if you don't have a way to navigate that? Right?
A good analogy now, Dr. Ish. Make it plain.
Right, so you got to navigate it. So we're talking about deal breakers, but what we're really talking about is a list of standards and boundaries. And once those things are violated, then you know that this is not the person for you. If you don't have a standard set for yourself and for them, how do you know when it's getting violated?
This is true. But I want to say this too, because I see a lot of people make a list. And some, like I have a few friends, I ain't going to say their name because I ain't going to put them on front. They're on the list. And I'm like, well, girl, you don't even offer that. So can you be too picky when you're making this list? Because I feel like there should be reciprocity. You know, if you want to make a nice body, you should be offering a nice body. You know, you can have a tire, you know, around your midsection, but talking about he got to have a six pack. Can you be?
Yeah, so it's the number one question that nobody ever asks themselves, which is, would I date me? Right? If this is the thing I'm asking for, right? If this is the person I want, right? That they're 6'2" and they make this amount of money and they look like Denzel and they talk to me this way and they drive this and they live here and they dress like this. Okay, what does that person want with me? Right? You got to ask, and that's a hard question to ask, Tammy, because a lot of us really suffer from that disease, never enough-itis, right? And we just feel like who we are isn't enough, so we don't want to ask that question. But you got to ask it in a way that helps you build yourself and not tear yourself down.
And that's the thing, because but at the same time, don't you think that you may have to break yourself down, not break yourself down self-esteem wise, but break you down into specific compartments so that you can know what it is that needs to be addressed, right? So breaking you down.
Absolutely.
Because I just feel like some of these people are not being honest with themselves, Dr. Ish, and everything is superficial. Like, well, I'm educated, or I have, you know, a good job, or I make a certain amount of money. And those to me are the least important things to bring into a relationship where two people are trying to become.
Right. Yeah, you gotta start with the basics, right? When it comes to my list of deal breakers, you know, what is one of the number one things a woman wants in any relationship? She wants to feel safe, right? So if he's putting his hands on you, that should be a deal breaker.
Right.
No question, non-negotiable, right? In that same category, because he's not going to punch you on the first date, right?
I was going to say, but there's actions that lead up to that.
Right. You got it. So, right, what is he going to do? Well, he's going to be late. He's not going to return taxes. He's going to be a little disrespectful. Then he's going to start calling you out of your name. And Tammy, you know this, and I know this. How many women do you know right now? I know a bunch who make excuses for him calling her out of his name. Oh, well, that's just who he is. No, that's not who he is. That's just what he thinks of you, right? And it's all a part of leading you toward that place of being less than who you think you are, so he can treat you any type of way, and you're going to take it.
And let's talk specifically to these young ones, because I think they're the ones who aren't getting it, right? Like for me, like how you just said, calling you out your name. There's not any day of any year that my husband can call me a bitch.
Right.
And then still say that he loves me. I would like for you to speak to these young ones to say that that's not right in a relationship. You're not his bitch.
Right. It's not cute. It's not funny. It's not a bae synonym. It ain't none of those things. Again, it's him priming you and prepping you and grooming you for the day where he really unlooses all the abuse he has for you and all the anger he's got for himself that he's going to pour out on you. And so, we hear it, every song we listen to just about if it's hip hop, you know, that's the culture, right? That's the slang. And so you get so used to hearing the word, it doesn't sting as much when you hear it, but you got to understand those two worlds are totally separate. And so you're there for a place of love and to feel good and for that sweetness and that tenderness and that affection. BITC, it doesn't say any of those things with that word. So that's got to be a hard line, a hard non-negotiable. Because here's the thing, is that's just who he is. Oh, that's just how he grew up. That's, you know, he from the hood. He's this, he's that. Okay, guess what? He got a mama, but he don't call his mama.
Correct.
Right? He's had a female boss or a female manager. I bet he hadn't called that, right? He hadn't called her out. So he can control it. He can contain it. But when it comes to you, he doesn't feel the need to do so.
You better talk to these people out here. I'm telling you, enlighten them. They got it all the way messed up. And I had a friend one time where she said, because I'm very upfront, right? So with my husband, I feel like I'm at an age where I'm not going to play games. So this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. If you can't do any of that, No problem. We just don't have to be together because now you've been honest about what you can deliver in
Right.
terms of what, in terms of like our mental and emotional equivalency that
Yep.
needs to be had in a relationship, right?
Yep.
And so, we had several conversations. People saw us on the boot camp and all of that.
Yep.
And we were able to come to a meeting of the minds and compromise and make that work. So
Yeah.
I have a friend though that says, well, you told him that as soon as you met him. That's too soon to be getting into all of that with somebody. Is that accurate?
That is highly inaccurate, Tammy. I love the space you're in because that's the space you got to be in. That's the space you got to stay in. We're talking about needs and wants, right? Back to day 3 on marriage boot camp. Needs and wants. Hey, this is what I'm going to need. This is what I want, right? You can sit down for your first date and a woman can lay out exactly what she needs, exactly what she wants, exactly what she's looking for, no problem. Because the guy who's looking for you is going to be disappointed if you don't. The reason he showed up is because he needs to know how to make you happy. And it is your job to show up and have the courage to let him know. And if he ain't the dude, he's going to make a decision. Hey, I enjoyed the dinner. See you when I see you. Or yeah, I can meet A, B, and C. I'm all in. But how's he going to know if you're too scared to tell him? There's nothing you're going to tell a guy on the first date. The guy that's for you, there's nothing you're going to tell him on day 1 that's going to scare him away. Nothing.
And that's what women need to come clear with, because I think so many women are fearful
Right.
of spending time alone. And I'm a big advocate of I love my own company. I love my husband, but if we weren't together, I'm good with just chilling and enjoying myself.
Yeah.
And some women aren't in that space, but we've got to get them there.
Yep. Well, it's a scary place to be, right? Because we all need love. We gotta have it. It's not a choice. We've got to have it. And you get so scared of feeling like, hey, maybe who I am isn't enough to get the love I need in this life to be okay. And it terrifies you. And so we end up settling, right? We end up settling for the crumbs of somebody's time and attention and affection when there's somebody out there who will give you the whole cake if you could just stand up for yourself.
Who give you everything. And speaking of that, I want you to speak to these women. I got you on here for a reason and a purpose. Speak to these women about packaging, because a lot of women have a list, right? And the guy will be everything, but maybe he's not 6'2", he's 5'9". You know what I'm saying? And so it's sometimes it's not the packaging that you envision, but it's the person inside of that packaging that's everything you need it to be.
Right. Yeah. And so at that point, my question to you is, who are you performing for? Right? Yeah. Who's your audience for this relationship it is you say you want? Right? Who are you trying to please? Because if you're trying to please your mama and them, you're gonna pick a certain guy. But if you want to please you, that may be a totally different dude. If you're trying to please your girlfriends and have somebody who they like, then that may be a totally different dude from the one who's actually going to make you happy. So you got to ask yourself, who am I performing for today? Right? Who's my audience today? And you got to allow the gifts to show up in the wrapper that the universe sends you, right? Just because it may not look like you thought it would, have all the things you got to go how you feel, right? Don't let your head trick you into something your heart knows, right? Your head will trick you into settling every single time, but your heart always feels like it's missing out on something it really deserves, and you know that.
I'm gonna have to get in your business, but we do have to. But you don't get to get off the hook. I need to find out, for you, what are some of your deal breakers when are you single?
No. Long term.
So we need to know. Look, I had to get close for that one. I was like, we need to know what were some of your deal breakers before you got into the relationship that you're, so that people could understand what some of those things look like. And
Well, Tammy, my journey hasn't been a lot different from everybody else's, right? I've had heartbreaks and I've had those disappointments, and I've had relationships that showed up and they didn't help me feel good about me. And so I had to unplug for a long time and just really examine some of my codependent tendencies. You know what I mean? I was the person who showed up and tried to do everything I could to possibly make you happy and make it okay and take responsibility for your feelings and for your life. And if I could finally do enough for you, then maybe you could love me back. And then that would prove to me that I'm something, you know?
That's powerful. And you had a thought process.
I had to rewrite the tape. You remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember those old Memorex cassette tapes where you can record over a song after you recorded the first time.
Yeah.
I had to re-record some things because that was a narrative that was running in my head. So I just had to change the way I talk to myself. And so now for me, deal breakers is if you don't treat me well, that's a deal breaker, right? You're not gonna say all kinds of crazy things to me. You're gonna treat me well. And I don't mean with some overbearing level of respect. You're just gonna be nice and kind, right? You're gonna be a good human.
Common decency.
Right, just common decency, right? It's nothing extra, you know. That's the thing. You know, one of the things we struggle with, especially in the community, is substance use, right? Whether it's weed or whether it's alcohol or anything harder. And so everybody's got to make their own call on that. But what I would tell folks who are struggling with the partner who's dealing with a partner who's struggling with that is once it gets to the point where it's affecting you and your family, right? If you can't get your rent or your mortgage paid because of what they're putting in their body, up their nose or in their arm, then that's a problem. And you got to know where that line is because there's only so far you can go before you both are going to sink.
Oh my goodness, the gems that are being dropped. We got to take a quick break, but we'll continue to chat with Dr. Ish after this break about deal breakers in a relationship when we return. So don't go away because this is Get Into It with Tami Roman on FOXSOUL. Hey, we're back with Get Into It. I'm Tami Roman, and I'm chatting with Dr. Ish Major from Marriage Boot Camp on WeTV. Now, before the break, I wanted to ask you, what is the craziest thing or issue that you've heard from a celebrity couple on Marriage Boot Camp?
Woo! Well, how much time you got? Listen. Well, you know the thing that breaks my heart, Tammy, when the couples come in. Because let's say if he's the celebrity and she's the non-celebrity, then one of the most heartbreaking things is I just got to put up with him cheating, right? Because that's just the industry. That's just what guys do. So that's part of the buy-in. If I'm going to be with a guy like that, I got to deal with the fact that I'm not going to be the only one, and that just breaks my heart. You know, it just does. Tammy, one of the craziest things was. Had a celebrity couple come in. She was the celebrity. It was her house, her money, her control. He was beating her in her house, cheating on her in her bed. And she couldn't wrap her head around the fact of leaving him. You know why, Tammy? Because if I leave him, I'm going to be a single Black mom with 5 kids. And who's going to want me?
Oh my goodness.
Right?
How did you help them?
Right? So it takes time, right? Because again, I'm gonna meet you at the door with what you bring, right? So if that's what you're working with, we're gonna start right there, and then we're gonna build up, we're gonna give you some tools and some building blocks to go from there. 6 months later, after they left the show, I get a DM from her. And it's her with a big smile on her face in her house by herself because she got him gone. And she was like, I just want you to know, I heard what you said back then, and I got to work, and I want to thank you. And so it was amazing to see.
I love that. Do any of the couples be faking?
Oh, you know they do. You know they do. And you know we bust them every single time as soon as they come in here. They got to go.
I remember when we did it, they pulled us in the office. We've heard that you guys may not be a real relationship.
Yes.
I said, we're not a real relationship because we don't post each other all over the gram for y'all to be in our business. So it's like we had to prove that we were a couple. And it's like we've been together, you know, and then since that time, I'm like, now I know they not a couple. And you think about boot camp, Tammy, is if you don't know each other, you can't get those 10 days done, right? And if you don't have any emotional connection, day 5 or 6, you're gonna be like, somebody need to call me an Uber because I got to go. Yes, because it's real heavy work.
Yeah.
People I understand that show is not a game. Like it's
No.
I thought I was going on there making a quick check, Dr. Ish. I ain't gonna lie to you. But that ended up being some work, baby.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
Because it taught us how to communicate properly, which leads me to this next question of people always talking about what's the key to a healthy relationship? Communication, communication, communication. People don't really understand what proper communication really looks like. Are you able to touch on that?
Yeah. So proper communication to me is one word: honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's and your truth is gonna change over time, right? If you've been together for 10 years, the things that turned you on 10 years ago, you're probably not into now, right? You got to be honest with your partner about that change. The things that felt, for women in particular, bodies change, babies change your body. The things that felt good 20 years ago don't feel good to me now, right? But you got to be honest with them about the changes. And so we get so scared to share our truth with our partner because we think, well, maybe they'll think it's weird, or maybe they'll think we're different, and now somehow they'll love us less than, and I won't get the love I need and I deserve, and I'm right back to square one, that we just want to keep it status quo. And again, settle for those crumbs of affection when we could really be getting the whole cake. You just got to be courageous enough to tell folks the truth.
Tell people the truth. Another thing that I actually learned in the boot camp about communication was most people view communication as what they want to say, right?
Right.
Like you said, being honest and saying whatever it is you want to say.
Yep.
The problem is you don't know how the person on the other side of that conversation is receiving it. And
Yep.
what we have, Reggie and I still do it to this day, is when he says something to me, I take the time to process, but then I repeat it back to him to make sure he meant in what he was saying, because that's a lot of issues. Do you like that method, or you got something like that?
Oh, that's the method I taught last week. It's the method I'm going to teach this week. LUV: listen, understand, and validate. Right? You're going to repeat back to them the exact same thing they said, word for word, just so they know you heard them. And then you want to ask them, did I get that right? Is that what so what I'm hearing you say is, you don't like it when I touch your hair anymore because that doesn't feel as good as it used to, and it makes you feel a little weird. Now, is that right? Yeah, that's what you heard me say, right? And so now what you're really doing, Tammy, is you're starting to resolve little arguments and little resentments, not because you had a fancy solution, not because you had a big bad plan, simply because your partner knows you heard them. And in any relationship, all we want is to be seen, heard, and understood. If I can see you, hear you, and understand you, you're going to feel good about where it is, and you're going to feel good about moving forward, and we don't have to carry that baggage with us.
I totally agree. Because some of the times when I repeat it back, he'd be like, no, what I'm trying to say is,
right.
Now see, if I had to just gone on,
right,
before we're in an argument about something that you weren't even trying to say that. So I think,
right. Always pause and ask for clarification. So wait, did I just hear you say that you think it's okay to do A, B, and C? Oh wait, no, that's not what I meant, right? So you just got to clarify.
Let me ask you this. One thing that anyone can do to start being a better partner to their mate. I feel like we know honesty, learn how to have patience, communicate. Yeah. Is there something that no one has thought about that? It's like, well, if you start doing this, you can actually be a better partner to your mate.
Yeah, the thing you've got to do is two things, right? So you create a space that makes it okay for you to tell each other the truth. And then you lead them to where they want to go, right? You're showing up every day because you think you can make each other happy. Yeah. But we're so scared to ask for it. Number one, we don't think they're going to really get it. And number two, maybe I don't really deserve it anyway. So the one thing you can do, we can all do to be a better partner, is just ask them how. Hey, you know what? I know I'm showing up and I'm doing the best, but some days I know I'm not being the man you need me to be, right? And some days I know I'm falling short, and I want you to know that I know that. So I'm here asking you today, what can I do today, right? Give me one thing I can do today.
Let me just approach one day at a time. What can I do today?
Right.
Oh, I love that. Listen, before you get out of here, Dr. Ish, we have something around here that we call Tammy's Fast Five.
All right.
Crazy and out the box. But I'm going to ask the question and you say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay. How long does it take for a couple to really get to know each other? And how long did it take you and your mate before you said, this is the one for me?
3 dates.
3 dates. Why 3 dates?
Every man knows if he's fallen in love at the end of the 3rd date, and everything you need to know about them, they showed you on those first 3 dates. You just got to pay attention.
What's the number one problem that causes couples to break up?
Not believing you're worth being happy. And so you assume that this other person is going to show up and believe the same thing. And so you go through your relationship looking for the evidence to support your own insecurity, and that's all you ever find.
Mm-hmm. If you were on a deserted island and you could only have one movie to watch for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It is going to be, I'm a big musical fan, Tammy. So for me, it's going to be 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. It's going to be My Fair Lady. It's probably also going to be The Sound of Music. I got 5 sisters. We grew up with musicals.
One of those.
Seven Brides for 7 Brothers. That's my thing. Adam Potter all day long. I'm old school with that.
What is too much for you in the bedroom?
Wow. My first guess is nothing.
And what's your best piece of advice for a long-lasting relationship?
My best piece of advice is you got to show up and be the thing you never had, right? Hey, dad wasn't there, so that taught me I wasn't important, so you got to be that thing, right? Mom couldn't give me all the time I needed, so maybe I'm not significant. So you got to be that thing to yourself, right? And then if you can be the thing you never had, you can start attracting those things you never had. But it all starts with you.
Ooh, you done dropped some gems. How can everybody find you, Dr. Ish?
Find me on the gram, Tammy, Dr._ISH._major, Dr. Ish Major. Same thing on Twitter, same thing on Facebook. It's just my name. That's what I got to show up and be. That's all I am, Tammy.
And when's the new season of Marriage Boot Camp?
Ooh, we you know what? We are taping 2 seasons right now. The next season should drop probably late summer.
Okay, perfect. Now if you need some alumni to swing through, I can just walk through the place and tell them.
Come on through.
You want some BS and y'all a fake relationship. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed our talk. Everyone stick around because you've got questions and I've got answers. Ask Tammy is up next on Get Into It with Tami Roman on FOXSOUL.